Hello.
Hello.
And that's it. There's no Artie. Artie is having troubles with his computer, so he's going to join us later. You're
so
quite
funny.
You're quite the you're the woman of the moment, though, Helen, because I've been enjoying this morning watching. I believe he's a psychologist. His name is John. What's his name? John Amici. And he's got a book out called The Promises of Giants, and he apparently called you vile today. Did you see
Well,
this?
he called the question vile.
Yes, the standalone question. This question that is a basic safeguarding question. You know, he called that vile. Extraordinary.
He did, but also very crucially, he didn't answer it. No. I noticed because somebody put it to him, but he didn't actually answer it. Yeah. And I think that's a really key point, isn't it? He says trans women have been changing with us and our children for generations, but that's not the question. The question is, does he think that this is right? Does he think that it's right that any person born male should be allowed to do this? He's really obfuscating by saying, oh, well, it's happened, it's already here. And this is so apparent, isn't it?
Well, and also it's so dishonest because, well, I don't know if it's dishonest. I think sometimes these people are just a bit ignorant because we know very well that the word trans now applies to anyone who calls himself trans. It does not apply to transsexuals, and I'm sure. Well, actually, it does apply to transsexuals, but only kind of, as a small group that's included in this much wider group involving pedophiles attacking children. Any old bloke with eyeliner who wanders into a woman's space. I mean, yes. I'm sorry. I know you know.
But no, I mean it. No. I mean it does, but I think the problem here is that it's this need to look right, to look as if you're holding the right opinions, and I don't think it's not necessarily really thought through to the sort of the nth degree. It's very basic. It's trans rights are human rights. And anyone who questions them must have sort of nefarious motives. We must call them evil and awful and nasty. And then there's this slight moment, I think, when they'll see a question like this, and it must go shit, and it makes them really, really angry. It makes them fucking furious.
Yeah, and I know
because they know. I mean, they know, right?
And I know this as well. Sorry, excuse me, that was rather comical. They know as well that they're in the wrong because, like dozens of people. The brilliant thing about this country now is that you can't get away with that nonsense online. You get ratioed immediately when you come out with crap now, and they're not used to it. They're not used to this pushback. They're like, oh, this is the right thing. I'm saying the right thing. Why are people disagreeing with me? This is the correct thing. And so what happens is you get responses that are, as always, polite, carefully put, clear, and he's just blocking everyone. Yes. I'm going to do a thread of all the reasons people have been blocked by him.
Well, that's excellent because the other thing is that we have been doing this for a while. So we've seen all the obfuscation before. We've seen all the attempts at answering. And we now, as a collective, are quite adept at going back and saying, well, actually, you didn't answer this question, I note, or saying, but you haven't, I'm centering women and girls. But you haven't considered this. So we're able to answer this because we've seen it all before. And somebody new is like, fuck. It's really frustrating because there's so many people saying the same things, and in the main, politely and reasonably, and they've got to resort. I noticed a lot of his replies are straw man, block, straw man, and we're like, straw man isn't. It doesn't mean I can't answer you. I'm going to block you, but it does to him.
Yeah. It's just extraordinary. But it's always, but it's interesting, isn't it, that there's so many people who are so kind of what would you call it? I don't know what the word is. Sorry, they're so kind of protected from these views. They haven't investigated it at all. So when they get pushback on stuff like this, they're completely shocked. They don't know what's going on. I mean, as we say, his response is purely a defensive measure. Here's Artie now. His response is purely a defensive measure. How's that? That looks good to me, Artie.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Yes.
Great. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
You have to do the highest pitch hello.
Hello!
Hey, there we go.
That was really good. I actually think it was the right pitch as well. I swear that it's the right pitch.
You're slightly Mrs. Doubtfire, I think.
We're just talking. We're just talking about this new guy who's entered the fray, John Amici, I think his name is, who called Helen's question vile this morning.
Who is this guy? He's an OBE.
He's a psychologist. Isn't that terrifying?
Well, he was a professional. But wait, he was a professional basketball player. I think he was one of the first ones to come out as gay.
Okay.
He played for Oregon, I think, and then went back to school and became a psychologist, which is why I believe he is so popular, because he was actually a basketball player.
Well, his tweet said something like, "Oh, well, trans people have been blah 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 blah." It's not hard to comprehend that the word trans people has been vastly enlarged to encompass a lot of different people. I'd like to sit him down and I'd shut him the fuck up in about 10 seconds. I'd say, we live in a world. We know that there are a lot of people who cross-dress for a lot of different reasons. And you can't stand here and tell me that they don't count as trans, because if they turn to you and say they're trans, you have to tell them they aren't. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to tell dangerous people who happen to have cross-dressing fetishes that they don't count as trans, then they now count as trans. And we live in a world full of dangerous people who happen to be cross-dressers. It's that simple. This is not complicated. We had that case here in Toronto where a violent child molester was sexually assaulting children in a park. And apparently there may be multiple victims, and he's got a beard and he's a crusty dude. And the headline says, "Woman is sexually assaulting children." It's like, that was never what transgender was ever supposed to mean.
No, that was outrageous. That was really outrageous. I liked Helen Joyce's tweet on it. Furious, just saying, I mean, for fuck's sake, come on, guys, this is just not a woman. And it really isn't.
I'm hoping that it will, that stuff like that just piques more people. I often wonder whether the journalists are involved in a bit of a kind of a, I mean, they must know when they write down the words a woman was arrested. Like, are they kind of signaling to us, hey, we have to write this or we get in trouble? So
I think so.
Do you think? I think some must be, because some
a combination of that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, they have to. I think they have to. Certainly in Britain, that's the IPSO guidelines, isn't it? I think they have to adhere to them.
Yeah. In Canada,
we should probably try and do something about that.
Yes, in Canada, it's self-ID is the law. So it's presumably likely that this guy, who I saw in another photograph wearing a baby's bib, right? A baby's bib around his neck. I'll put that on the site later. This guy will probably be put in a female prison, and his crime will probably be recorded as having been done by a woman.
Yeah, and then when he gets out, he'll be at the front of the transgender parade.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So this is an auto pedophile. This is somebody who is a pedophile, but is an auto pedophile. Is sexually wants to be the thing he's sexually attracted to. This is, remember, the exact same phenomenon as transsexualism, autogynephile. You want to, and most pedophiles are also attracted to adult women. So, they're not exclusively attracted to children. So they have two targets of their attraction, females and children. And so they self-identify as females and they self-identify as children, just to clarify what's going on here. Yeah, so we know exactly why he's identifying as a woman. And we know that that's not what we mean when we're trying to be compassionate to a different group of people who have gender dysphoria, who are trying to live quietly.
Again, it's just this inability to think about it. It's this inability to confront it, because they just don't really care.
But it's an inability to confront it that has been pushed by autogynephiles largely because they don't want you to know that their drive, to cross-dress is not because they have a precious lady soul. It's because they have a sexual paraphilia. And there are other people who I think had bad intentions who pushed this whole idea that you never question ever. When somebody says they're trans, it's out of bounds to question. It's out of bounds for you to determine whether they're trans or not, because they had their insecurities, because they didn't want you to know that their reasons weren't quite so pure.
Yeah. It's part of the.
Okay, I've just seen. Can I just say I've just seen that John Amici has now replied to somebody asking about this question. It isn't a question; it's an indictment, and it's indecent. So he's saying it's a formal charge or accusation of a serious crime, and it's indecent. I mean, I think this is. I mean, this is really quite the appalling accusations now, isn't it? I mean, this is outrageous. This is women asking a fucking simple question, and this guy has gone insane over it.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
John. The answer is no. That's the answer. It's no. That's the answer. Only brain damaged people who've been online too long would answer with anything other than no. All right. Only no is the only correct answer to the Stanoland question. It's that simple. So well, anyway, you'll never see this.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Hey, listen, have we talked about the monkey dildo guy? Sorry, that was too tight a turn. Helen, go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that this bloke hasn't been the only one this week. There's been a ton of Americans who have just entered the fray, and honestly, I thought our lot were full of hyperbole. Nothing. Like, bring them back. Genuinely, like I'd argue with man at bus stop over these. They are really. I mean, they're insane. I had a woman yesterday suggesting that I was a violent, murderous psychopath. What's her words?
Yeah.
You're like a violent, murderous psychopath for asking this question. And this, she's got like thousands of followers, and then loads of other. I mean, it all came from that Nate chap, who seems to be some army bloke. Who actually today I saw him say, "I'm better at bullying than you." I mean, he's perfectly happy to own the fact that he's a bully, but he really seemed to get very angry with not being able to bully women with impunity. He was getting pushed back, and this seemed to drive him a bit mad. Like he couldn't quite handle it. He did all of the tropes of calling us names, and then going on his feed and quote tweeting people, and then going on his feed saying, "Oh my God, these people are still after me. Oh, they tweet all the time. They're obsessed." He says, then saying, "Oh my God, she used to have a banner header. Look, she does this thing with Glinner. Oh, look." And then he picked on you, Arties. "Oh, you do this thing with Glinner. Look at them at Christmas." Whilst simultaneously calling us obsessed.
He literally just posted a picture. He just posted a screenshot of us four, us three plus Suzanne Moore, on our Christmas special.
Oh, the Christmas special. Yeah.
He just posted that, like that's some kind of damning indictment. Like, and I'm like, that's us.
And I'm like,
we
had so much fun. We were so pissed. We had so much fun.
And then he called me a neek. I had to look up neek. I did learn what a neek was. I hope that's not an too offensive word, but he called me it, whatever that is.
Listen, let's forget this guy. Let's talk about something far more important: the monkey dildo man.
Yes, the monkey dildo.
Can I just start that off with? In Canada, there's a band from the '90s called the Rainbow Butt Monkeys, and who knew that they may have been time travelers from the future? Because now there are rainbow butt monkeys in the world.
The brilliant thing about it, though, was the other photograph, the photograph from their regular gig, where it was like they've been trying to say, "Oh, children draw." I think Ray Reardon, who I call a certain trans rights activist, but Ray Reardon was saying that children draw pictures of penises all the time. And all this sort of stuff, and then you saw a photograph from their usual act, which was just all these guys with huge dicks on their heads, kind of pretending to fuck the monkeys.
Yeah,
it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. I wonder how many of these guys who were pretending to fuck each other in this field thought, someday I'm going to do this for children. Someday I'm going to do this, being paid by a local council to do this in front of toddlers in a library.
I imagine the library thought, oh, let's get some fancy dress people in. And then they asked them and they were like, oh, shit. Well, maybe these costumes, maybe they won't notice the dangling penis. It's just rainbow monkeys.
I'm not sure. I think this was, first they did the drag queen story hour and they got particularly saucy drag queens. And then they've escalated to like rainbow butt monkeys with dildos. And they were joking about it. Before they pretended to be shocked, they were acknowledging. They were making jokes about how well endowed the monkeys were or something. So I think this is one of those cases where they think they're queering children. They think this is progressive. They think it's like, look, it's virtuous to expose children to adult sexuality because what's wrong with sexuality in the end anyway? We've been down this path before with fucking hour in the school of fucking, where teaching children sexuality sounds virtuous because what's wrong with sexuality? It's natural, kumbaya. Yeah. And then next thing you know, the predators are right there being like, it's exactly what we wanted, We've been down this path and they genuinely think they're being virtuous and progressive by exposing children to sexuality because after all, only a prude wouldn't want to expose children to sexuality. It's super galaxy brain of us to realize that there's nothing wrong with exposing children to dicks,
Yeah. Like Arthur Chu, I believe, is a big fan of this as well. He's always saying, kids need to be exposed to kink or they won't know what kink is. It's like, stay away from kids, please, sir.
No, I have to admit, though, about 10 years ago, I was saying something along those lines when I was saying, like, I never really liked going to the pride parades myself because they were just too loud and too gay for me. But I liked the idea that these families were coming out and celebrating gays. That always warmed my heart and made me cry. And still does. But it was getting kinkier and kinkier and kinkier. And I had this attitude at the time that was like, this is progressive and virtuous. And we're like, showing the world that sexuality and kink is okay. And look, even kids can like be exposed to a little bit of it was very much my sort of thinking at the time. So I've had to really learn. But a lot of people think that kind of thing. I mean, I did take a queer theory class in my abortive attempt to get
that'll be it probably. But like, I think one thing that would, sorry, Helen, go on.
Well, I think what really shocked me about the rainbow dildo butt monkey was the fact that the other side, I saw people really defending it, and I thought it's such a dangerous route to go down to automatically defend everything that the other side sort of says is wrong. I mean, I saw the usual suspects. Actually defending it, and there is no defense. Somebody was saying it's not a dildo, you don't know what a dildo looks like, obviously, because that's not, I mean, genuinely, and saying, oh, look, this is like, I've seen monkeys, they're just anatomically correct monkeys, and somebody was like, and I've not seen one with rainbow fur before, but I do think it's dangerous. But what was more dangerous, I think, was the replies from the same sort of, like the people that we've spoken about before. No, there's no dissent. Everyone is sort of sticking to the same lines. And I think it's sort of an incredibly dangerous sign of like sort of such group thinking that you can't actually say, hang on, I see a problem with this. But they were all there just sort of laughing at the pearl clutching of women and how they could have possibly, they would never take their kids to the zoo. And you think, honestly, is not one of you standing back thinking, hang on, there's a problem here? But they were. Well,
there's still some loud ones, but I would imagine their numbers are growing fewer all the time because the vast majority of people who saw Rainbow Butt Monkey, it will either pique them or it will kind of, I mean, everyone I've seen is the same. They're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Never underestimate the ignorance of Americans.
Well,
sorry, that's not fair. There's a lot, but that's not anti-American. I don't want to be anti-American as an American myself. But there's something about this new wave of American trans activists coming in who are just like Helen is saying, like just deeply lockstep groupthink.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the sunk cost fallacy again to some extent.
But also, interestingly, there was a lot of anti-British rhetoric going on.
Oh yeah, they hate Britain. They hate Britain
But I
now.
think that's really odd as well. You know, if you think that your stance is leftist and progressive, then surely you can see the xenophobia in that stance. And you would, like, if you really believed in sort of leftism, you'd think, okay, well, this is wrong. We can't just vilify a whole group of people. But there was a lot of it, a huge amount of it, from, you know, just all about, you know, the suffragists. I had one reply saying, London in your bio.
What I love about all these guys is all these guys, right? All these guys who criticize, you know, who criticize the UK, and they all tend to have Antifa or he, him in their pronouns or whatever, you know. And basically, like, I think, possibly, you know, I mean, they are a huge reason why Trump won the presidency, right? Because one looks to the left to, you know, to be a buffer against people like Trump, you know, to try and kind of, you know, stop things like a person like Trump getting into the White House. But during the years that Trump was kind of getting his ducks in a row, the American left were just obsessed with canceling people, with saying that men are women, with it, coming up with new pronouns for themselves. By the way, it's non-binary day today, so let's celebrate. Great day to celebrate something that does not exist.
Yes.
But like it's you know, these are the very people who put Trump in power, and Trump has started to hold rallies again, and they're doing very well. And guess what he's talking about? He's talking about men and women's sports. Now, do we think that is going to play with the wider audience? I think it is. I think it's going to play very well with a wider audience. And I think, horrifying as it might be to say, we could be looking at another 4 years of Trump, you know? It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
I agree. It's not impossible. And the left has to wake the fuck up. They just don't realize that, oh, you know, you're complaining about cancel culture. It's not a big deal. It already created a blue wave in the UK. Mm-hmm. Wake up, American left. Wake up. This is a big deal.
They're using Trumpian tactics now, though. I mean, they're using this idea of like fake news. I mean, they can shout and scream like you're just you know, like you're violent, murderous psychopaths, and
God,
get, 1,500 likes of people saying yes, they really are violent, murderous psychopaths, which is Trumpian levels of fake news, isn't it? You know, if you say it enough and say it with conviction and have loads of people like it, you know, that's it. But it's terrifying. It's extremely Trumpian, and it is terrifying. Yes.
Yeah. And Graham said something. Graham and I, off this channel, elsewhere, Graham said something that is haunting me. He said that the right discovers new tactics to manipulate people or something, and the left, instead of figuring them out and learning how to stop them, adopts them. Yeah. You know, it started with information laundering with the yellow cake uranium. You know, where they were trying to find any excuse to invade Iraq, and there was no excuse to invade Iraq, a secular country. And they did by planting a little story about yellow cake uranium, and then getting people to refer to that story, and then getting people to refer to that story, until eventually it's in the New York Times. Fucking idiots, the New York Times. And then the leftists did the same thing with queer theory. And then there's this idea of idea muddling, that, you know, trans is supposed to be feminine gays and masculine lesbians who, you know, are just so gender nonconforming. They need to sort of live in the opposite role. But then we've sort of fuzzed that idea with this other thing, which is like fetishistic cross-dressing, and anybody who cross-dresses for any reason counts as trans. That was a lot like, there were two wars going on in the early 2000s. There was the war on terror and this unrelated invasion of Iraq. But they fuzzed the two together, you know, they fuzzed the two wars into one, so that most Americans didn't even know there were two separate wars. Just like most trans activists don't know there are two separate typologies of transgender, you know. Exactly. It's been fuzzed together. They're hiding the sort of Not that the war on terror is noble, and not that homosexual transsexualism is noble, but one of them seems more justifiable in the minds of people than the other, than the invasion of Iraq or than autogynephilic cross-dressing fetishism. But they hide one behind the other to get ahead. And the left just learns from all this. And now it's fake news. The left is like, okay, the right is passing all this fake news on everyone. Instead of learning how to stop it, they're just learning how to use it. Yeah, I think that's the most haunting thing I ever heard from Graham, of the many wisdoms of Graham Linehan. It's the one that the left just learns how to use the tools of the right instead of learning how to stop them. Yeah,
and it's going to have the exact same ending that the Trump administration had. The Trump do, like our friend Mr. Amici, whatever his name is blocking anyone who disagrees with him. So he's just basically avoiding the responsibility of backing up his arguments, right? That's what Trump did. Trump just walked away from every interview that got difficult. He I don't think there were any White House press briefings by the end. He does what every single one of these little Trumpkins on Antifa or left-wing Trumpkins does on social media, which is just he escapes from scrutiny, he escapes from accountability, or they escape from scrutiny and accountability, and they just hide. And the thing is, just like Trump ran out of road, they're going to run out of road. Because eventually, the thing about reality is it doesn't go away just because you're pretending it's not there. It's always going to be there when you open your eyes and stop dreaming, So they're going to run out of road.
I think what's quite useful about these people, because I got into a fight with that Nate bloke, and it was quite amusing quote tweeting him because he was such an idiot. But does it really achieve anything? Possibly not. It sort of it probably entrenches his position to an extent because he can say, "Oh, look at all these horrible people piling on me." But I do think it's quite useful from the point of view of people seeing the extraordinary bullying and unpleasantness and anger and really, really, really stupid misogyny and extreme misogyny. Because here in Britain, like I was saying, we have been thinking and talking about this for a lot longer, I think, than in America. And a lot of the general public are completely aware that this fight is going on. And I do think that it's quite useful showing the extremism of some of the things that are being said, because it makes people think, because it's so in your face, you're like,
people don't believe
surely not. Who knows? Maybe this is my way of saying, yeah, it's all right. It's all right to tweet the wankers.
No, you have to. You have to stand up for yourself. One of my favorite things about being on Twitter, and one of the only reasons I miss it, is because I loved getting these guys who were hounding women and harassing women and quote tweeting them to a lot of people, because these guys think they can do it quietly. They think they can do it the way they've always done it, which is privately and quiet. That's why I did a blog post on Helen on my site saying, go to Helen, follow her, stick up for her, because these pricks, they've been able to get away with it for nearly 10 years now because they've been doing it quietly, But once you bring attention to it, they get very annoyed. They get very annoyed.
Well, one of the things about persuasion is that you're never, when you are debating with somebody, I've said this before, you're never going to persuade the person you're actually arguing with, not in the short term, right? Because it's just psychologically too painful to admit defeat in the middle of an argument where you've fortified your position. It's just not going to happen. It's literal torture to actually have to do that. So that's just never no one ever concedes that. It's about the spectators. It's about the people watching. It always is. So even with that Nate fellow, I jumped into the fray on that hill and I couldn't resist. It was like catnip. He was such an idiot, But I was starting to subtly address his own followers, saying the longer you resist answering the question, the more your own followers are going to see that you have no argument. And I was subtly talking to him, but I was really talking to his 30,000 followers. He's a blue check, whoever the hell this person is. I didn't bother to look up who he actually is. Interesting that he's a military person. Obviously, there's a huge connection with military and transgender. So maybe he just has a lot of, aggro male friends who cross-dress.
Yeah. I think God, isn't it crazy? Just so many. Oh, by the way, that reminds me of someone. Of course, our old friend Amy Challoner was also in the military. I think the TA or something like that.
Wait,
But,
Amy, are you what? Amy Challoner's when? At what age? At what?
Oh,
time?
it was some kind of TA thing. What are they called?
Is that like cadets?
Kind of, yes. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And Sean Berry has just today, resigned from the Green Party as head of the Green Party because, and this is what's so great about it, she can no longer, I can't remember what she was saying, but she can no longer fulfill her duties to trans people. And basically, it looks like finally the huge amounts of resistance to for instance, the drug pusher Catherine Bristow, who's now chair, the sole chair of Green Party Women, despite being an intact male, is I think it's become too big an issue for their members to ignore. And basically, Sean Berry has said, "I'm off." And guess who congratulated her and thanked her for her friendship? Amy Challoner.
My God, how could anybody? I hope she didn't respond with a little.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, like one of the things that Sean Berry did before she was head of the Greens is she went through and she deleted every reference to Amy Challoner. So I don't know why he's thanking her. She kind of left him in the lurch there a little bit,
Well, maybe we can crowdsource if she does any likes or any positive interaction with Amy Challoner, even on a subtle way. Since all the revelations of pedophilia are out, that's unacceptable.
Will not. She won't.
She'll pretend she didn't see it.
Yeah, which is of course. I mean, that would be insane. So Mandinga Arts, who provided the monkey butt dildo rainbow costume, have actually just now issued an unreserved apology and citing their lack of judgment in the choice of costume is one we deeply regret. Having profoundly undermined our relationship with partners and the public, we apologise profusely to everyone concerned and are horrified at the repercussions. And saying we undoubtedly got this wrong this time, which I think is interesting. It's a decent response.
I think that's a pretty good apology. Yeah.
Yes, but what's really interesting is the people who have been defending it, isn't it? They have
now
said
they're left
themselves.
In the lurch.
Yes, they themselves. This is absolutely a clear error of judgment. We undoubtedly got it wrong. But there's all sorts of people saying, "Hey, what's the problem with an anatomically correct monkey?"
Yes.
There's one still photograph of one of the rainbow butt monkeys. I don't think it's at the library. It's at some other event. And like a little girl sitting there smiling, and she's like 3 feet away from the dildo. And it's just I found that so jarring and upsetting, Like children shouldn't be exposed to that at all. It's really like, adult male genitals can be very frightening to children. As a boy, I found that very frightening seeing that. As a girl, I can't even imagine, and to be told that you're supposed to treat it all naturally, that you're supposed, like this is supposed to be in celebration. Rainbows.
Well, I saw the other side, that thread I was telling you about. Somebody posted a picture of one of them sort of sitting next to a woman just eating a sandwich on the bench, and she's got a sort of smile on, and so they were saying, "Look, this is fine. This woman had no problem with it. She's enjoying it." And that woman is just sitting there thinking, "Oh, just
yeah."
No, but seriously, but doing that thing that women have to do, which is to smile and go along, because it's frightening and it's worrying and it's difficult, and you have to do it. And to say, "Oh, look, she's enjoying it," I thought was really appalling. Apart from the fact that I'm blocked by all of them, and so I couldn't respond. I was just sneaking around on an alt account. I would have replied.
It's again, I think Trump should be the theme of this episode. We should name it something about Trump because again, it's just trying to blow as much smoke as he can, you know. I'll give you another. Here's another great example of the similarities between this movement and the right. One of the things that got me the way nearly everything gets you, Artie, in the heart. Something I don't think I've ever really got over in a weird way was the response to the Newton massacre. Sandy Hook, you know, a bunch of preschoolers who were killed while at school, and even then, the Americans couldn't do anything about guns. That's really upset me. But then I know you remembered that around the time of Sandy Hook, the panic the right felt, because they knew that if this story kind of hooked in to people's hearts too much, that something might have to happen about guns. So what did they do? They went after the parents. They called it a hoax. They did everything they could to muddy the issue, to say there was something more going on. This is suspicious, false flag, all that sort of stuff, you know. And guess what happened with the wee spa recently?
I know. Isn't that incredible? Fucking Slate
magazine did it.
There's a mainstream outlet, you know.
It's the most disgusting thing, you know. And again, it's just Trump tactics. It's just, oh, that worked for them. We'll do it. Because they know that the thing it exposes is they cannot defend it. You cannot defend it on any level. So the only thing you can do is call it a hoax, you know. And they're doing this by, I don't know, one of the women who was involved is religious, and of course, if you're religious,
well, yes, but also by saying, why didn't they film them, which is of course illegal. I mean, it's but it is. But I think
why didn't they go into the whole point of this is women's privacy when they're naked? Why didn't you whip your camera out and film? Oh, that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, but I think we said this on Sunday, didn't we? It's very much a case of, you know, I didn't shoot him, officer, but he deserved it. Yeah. Which is, you know, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But even if it did happen, it's fine.
Yeah. So it's just pure tribalism. Even so, Helen made that great tweet that said it's fine. Something like the 5 steps that don't make any sense, right? Yeah. It was like, it's fine. What's your problem? Oh, okay, maybe there's a problem. It never happened. You're crazy or something.
Yeah, when it was the insane bit, because there was a bloke actually saying, you know, you're insane, or it's insane. That it really was that at the end. It didn't happen, and anyway, you're insane.
But it's like the people writing that must have some cognitive dissonance. They must realize that their arguments they're not logically consistent. It's one thing to say it's okay that it happened and there's nothing wrong with it, and then to turn around in the snap of a finger, the blink of an eye, and say, okay, it's terrible if it happened, but it never happened. These are just so completely contradictory things. Yeah. But they do it anyways because it's all about tribalism. It's all about my side. It doesn't matter, you know? And the problem is the readers of these things are picking up on that message, and they're seeing the same thing. They're saying it doesn't matter whether our arguments are logically consistent. What matters is those evil, sinister people have bad intentions, and we have to be good. You know, we have to show that we're on the right side. We're defending the trans people no matter what. So I think this is another reason where we have to sort of show that, like, there is a boundary where trans can exist that is okay. There's such a thing as like positive trans rights, and that we're not anti-trans rights. It's not anti-trans rights versus pro-trans rights. It's about proper trans rights versus outrageous, egregious trampling all over women's rights and children's rights and freedom of speech and gay rights. You know,
genuinely, it's human rights, and then it's we've said so many times, it's just those rights where that little bit where the rights of males and the rights of females conflict. And we have to be able to say, just like I was saying to Laurie Penny, the conflict of interest comes from the fact that one group is born male and one group is born female. That is it. That is the root of the conflict. And we have to be able to acknowledge this. Otherwise, we will never be able to move on. Like, we simply can't. People who refuse to acknowledge this are just causing so many problems. And actually, and I think in large part they're enjoying the fight. They're enjoying saying horrible things to women and shouting and
Yeah, I
screaming
think
and
that's a
bullying
large
them,
part of it,
and then
yeah.
saying, I'm just standing up for trans rights. I mean, you can guarantee that every person who's had a pile-on because they've said something like rubbish like this or refused to answer the question, you go to their feed and their tweet is saying, oh my God, the TERFs have all arrived simply because I'm standing up for trans rights. And this ridiculous rewriting of the narrative of what happens, it's enjoyable to them. I think, you know, they've been given a license now to bully women with impunity.
Yeah, Owen Jones is a great example. I think that Owen Jones is basically a misogynist whose time has come. You know, he's now allowed to be openly misogynist. You know. Have we got any trolls in the? I'm seeing weird things in the thing. Are people trolling?
I can't see the chat because I'm on my phone, unfortunately.
Right, okay.
So I'm glad we're checking on the trolls, because last week we had a bad troll who was really running out of control for a long time.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should get rid of them because they distract everyone, don't they? But I'll keep my eye out. There was another aspect to this. Oh, that I was going to mention. What was it? Oh, well, it'll come back to me. Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay, well, just whilst we're waiting, I just wanted to go back to something that Artie said about one of the things that you have said that has, you know, that he's been impressed the most, he's remembered the most. And I've got one, and I think it's really small and far away.
What?
Well, I just wanted to say this, that one of the things that I love that you've said, but not sure, obviously, on Father Ted, which is the cows, which are really small and far away. I've actually used that so many times in my life.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yes,
Wow.
I think it's great.
That's the first time I've realised you've seen the show. Just came out of nowhere.
That was my favorite line back in the 90s of that show, too. That one was just like, I remember it was just like a nuclear bomb of funniness. It just kept going and going and going.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, you know, yeah. That's my old life. This is my life now. No, don't worry. I'm working on something, but it's a long way ahead. Oh shoot, what was I going to say? There was another aspect that was kind of Trump-like. I think it was. What was it? It's going. It'll come back. Now everyone's talking about Father Ted. No. We've got to keep...
Okay, back to this.
We've got to keep righting wrongs. How about the gay? Let's talk about the gay choir. Did we talk about that on Saturday?
We did on Sunday. Yeah, we did talk about it a bit.
We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, the pedophiles in the rankings. I know the charges were like sexual acts with a child under the age of 14 is we don't know the details, but that's all we know. It was something sexual with children under the age of 14. And numerous of these people were convicted of these. It's like, Jesus.
And they sing a song called "We're Coming for Your Children." It's one of those things that, like, hypothetical situation, if I was a pedophile, it's never really appealed to me, but imagine for a second there was. The t-shirt may help. But the one thing I would probably not do is sing a song about how I was going to come for your children and put it online. I would probably avoid that. Like, I know what I was going to say. Yes, it's another aspect of this fight. Actually, someone said in the comments, someone said something like, "It's a bit crazy. Everyone on both sides is trying to figure out what's going on." I think someone said that. And one of the things about this fight that is so strange is that, like, what is acceptable is literally changing from moment to moment. So also what is, you know, we're living in a time where
the Overton window.
The Overton window
really moving.
It's going all over the place. So, like, for instance, the Rainbow Monkey guys, they didn't do anything wrong. It's like Schrodinger's offense. They didn't do anything wrong until they were caught. Same with the library. You know, the library who was saying, "Oh, if you've got it, flaunt it 1 second," and the next thing, "We are very sorry. It was a bad judgment that we should."
That's a really good point.
Yeah, yes. It's like you know, you have to, once you catch them, they suddenly realize what they're doing is wrong. You know. But here's the thing: there are so many libraries out there, so many libraries who are running drag queen story time, and again, they're just unconcerned because they haven't been caught to the same extent that the Rainbow Monkey people have been caught.
I keep reading about, or I'm watching a show right now about East Germany, and it's a great series called Deutschland. There's Deutschland 83, Deutschland 86, and now Deutschland 89. And this third series is about the East Germans as the wall is crumbling. And they've been doing all this nefarious stuff. And there's this sudden waking up. I'm just at the start of Deutschland 89. But there's this sudden waking up and realizing that the wall has come down. And now they're going to have to reckon with all of their dirty deeds. You know, right. They're going to have to reckon with all the right up until the moment that wall fell. They felt utterly justified in everything they were doing because it was for the cause of socialism and left-wing progress. And then suddenly the wall comes down, and suddenly it's like the curtains have been flung open, and they suddenly realize, oh shit, now we have to face the fact that niggling, lingering suspicion in the back of our own minds that we're the villains. You know, and we're going to have to reckon with it, and that we've been behaving badly. And I just keep having to pause the show and get up and pace back and forth because the parallels with what's going on in wokeism have just been so naked. You know, the whatever you call it, the tale, the the morality tale of East Germany is just so. There's so many parallels with what's going on with the woke left.
Stella O'Malley is great, quite apart from heading up Thoughtful Therapists with James Esses, and James, the other person's name, the other James's name I've forgotten. She's really good on the historical significance of all this. I love talking to her because she's really smart on historical parallels, you know. And one of the ones she said about the Stasi in East Germany was one of the things that happened when the Stasi fell is right up until the moment they fell, everyone thought that everyone else supported the Stasi, right?
Yeah, the preference falsification. Yeah.
Yeah. So as the Countess didn't fight for this in Ireland, recently brought out a poll that says that the vast majority of Irish people do not agree with self-ID. Yeah. Once they know what it is, because remember, self-ID was snuck in on the back of marriage equality. Yeah. Once they see it, once they see what it means, they reject it. And Helen pulled another poll that said exactly the same thing. You know, as soon as you actually present what it is to people, they reject this. You know, they see that it's homophobic. They see that it's misogynistic. They see that it breaches safeguarding, that it destroys women's sports and spaces. You know, they do know. It's just, again, because you see something like Rainbow Butt Monkey or the fucking pedophile in Toronto who's been arrested and called a woman, all through this piece, your brain is trying to kind of, if you're not versed in this stuff, people must feel like they've gone mad. They must feel like, if you see that pedophile story and you're reading it and see she did this, she did that, and your eyes are constantly flicking back to the photograph of this guy. Well, what must happen to people's brains? You know, it's almost, do you know what it's almost like? It's almost like we're being softened up for the next Trump, for the next person who comes in and decides that reality is whatever he says it is. It's like the media are helping that next.
They are, but actually, I think in showing the picture alongside the text, I think it really does make it's a bit of a wake-up call for people, isn't it? When they
my early theory about the journalist.
That's a yes. I think to an extent, you know, that people, it just makes it so obvious. But what I find interesting is, you know, sometimes I've been having this conversation with Christ. I've been like somebody was saying earlier, you should probably program a hotkey to have the sentence. We all know that you didn't answer the question because I have tweeted so often.
Yes.
But, you know, when I first used to start asking this question, people, you know, you could see people getting uncomfortable and the conversation moving on. But now I am so used to the obfuscation and the denials and the anger that sometimes I have to really sort of regroup and think, genuinely, this is appalling. It's such a simple, basic question. It's not like we're asking for everything. It's a really small thing, something that we've had for years, something that society has already decided that women should have because we absolutely know why. Who the hell are these people coming along and saying, oh my God, even asking this question is indecent, it's vile. I mean,
can you believe it?
genuinely, this, I mean, how can they possibly say that out loud and think, yeah.
But then they say that they'll die. They say that a trans person will die if they can't whip their dick out in front of little girls. You know, they don't understand that. So this is why I'm emphasizing that trans rights is still a thing that exists. Trans people should be free from job discrimination, free from housing discrimination. They should get lots of mental health therapy available to them, lots of physical health therapy available to them. There is a thing called trans rights, and we are champions of that too. Because we don't want trans people to die. But the ability to whip your dick out in front of little girls is not trans rights. These people don't get that. Like, most trans people don't want to whip their dicks out in front of little girls.
Yes, but this is why I had started saying right, so this was where the question originated. Do you think one of those rights should be this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you believe that this is one of the trans rights that you're asking for? Because a genuine answer could be actually no. The rights I'm asking for are sort of no discrimination in employment, in housing, etc. That is a valid answer too. You say, well, it's yes or no, but actually there are plenty of nuanced answers where you could say, well, sometimes yes, for most of the time, yes, we should treat trans women as women, but some of the times when it comes to matters of changing rooms or sports, then no. That is a perfectly valid answer, and in fact, it shows that somebody's thought the position through and is reasonable. But that is never an answer you get. I have never had that answer, never once.
They know.
Never.
They know.
Yeah.
They know.
Crazy.
They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they're frightened to look at it directly. It's like the kind of intensity of their wrongness is like the sun. They simply can't. They have to just glance at it, and they can't even do that. It's fucking crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah. Well, can I go back to the historical analogy thing with the Stasi? Because I think one of the problems with being aware of everything that's going on is it can feel like to outsiders who aren't aware, this just doesn't seem like a big deal. Why are we so obsessed with this when it's just affecting a small number of people? It's just a few little niggling issues. That is not true. This is deadly serious stuff, and it's the cusp of ripping apart the fabric of reality, and this really is opening it up to, like Graham said, for the potential for another Trump or for a Gilead, Handmaid's Tale-like situation. This really is the fabric of reality itself under threat, and already it's bad enough what's going on. We don't even need to justify being obsessed with this in terms of what it could do, because what it's already doing and already has done is beyond horrific. Yeah. So the analogy with the Stasi, I don't think is like, it's not a smaller scale Stasi-like situation. The psychology is the same, and it has the potential to be just as bad, and it's already gotten really horrible. There is a body count to this already,
Yes, absolutely. A lot of this is about women's right to define their boundaries and the massive hostility, pushback for women to define their boundaries. And a lot of it is just coming from men. It's actually just men against women about women's right to define their own boundaries. For me, actually, that's the main part of this fight, is the silencing and the almost gleeful violation of women's boundaries, like linguistic, physical, etc. And it's not really necessarily by trans people. A lot of this is perpetrated by straight men or just men, gay men,
just men.
Yeah. And and as you say, the effects of it are already being felt. And we found out over the last few years that despite however many times they say that rights are not pie, rights are pie. For instance, let's take Emmy nominations for Best Female Actress as a bunch of slices of pie. There's 6 slices of this pie. Well, last night a male took one of those slices of pie. Right? Mm-hmm. So rights are pie. The rights are certainly pie if you're in archery, in a female entry to archery in the Olympics, which has been taken by another male, or weightlifting, which has been taken by another male. In fact, you should all search out Nutmeg's piece in the Critic, which just there's dozens of examples of these places being taken by males. And there was a brilliant quote I saw. Someone wrote. Let me just quickly find it. I think it was a banner or something. Oh yeah, women's sport is not a retirement plan for failed male athletes. Well, unfortunately, that's exactly what it is at the moment. It is a retirement plan for failed male mediocre athletes. There's a brilliant thing I noticed. An Australian woman used I think it was Fond of Beatles graph to show, like, there was one line down here, another line up here, right? And the line up here was male ability at weightlifting, right? And the line down here was female ability at weightlifting. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, like in this line up here, Laurel Hubbard was in the middle, was directly in the middle of the line.
Yeah.
So this is a completely average man who is now taking women's prizes. It's fucking outrageous. Anyone who supports it is a traitor to it. You know. Listen, I'm going to have to go because I have to head back to the house and do some stuff. Was there anything else to talk about before we head up? Anything we should be?
I'm good. I've ranted enough about misogynistic men on Twitter.
I did want to say a little thing about last week. It was last week. We had Lisa Keogh on, and we also had another guest, Daisy, who was a student who was starting to tell her story, but because it was Lisa's graduation, we didn't really cover it. So, Daisy, if you're watching this, I really want to do a one-on-one and speak to you about that. It's really important what you were saying, I think. So we'll get you back. Don't worry about that.
I think that would be excellent. And lots of people I saw on Twitter were asking for that. Think that they want to know more about Daisy's story. I think that would be great, Graham.
We'll definitely do that. In fact, there's a couple of stories that have been popping up that I might have to do one-on-one interviews, which I haven't been doing too many on. They're possibly a little too serious for the mess we're in, so I might do them there. Right, I think that's it.
All right.
Lovely to catch up with you. I may see you in Scotland next week because I'm going up to support Marianne Miller.
Excellent.
Can't wait. I will bring my ribbon that you made
and your kilt
and my kilt. I hope to get an honorary kilt. So hopefully Marianne will, by that time, this ridiculous thing will have been thrown out of court and we'll have something to celebrate. So I will see you next week with a bunch of with at least Marianne and maybe even more Scottish witches. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay,
see you
soon.
Bye. Oh, I nearly pressed the studio again by mistake.